Our first item for consideration is H.R. 6302, the Overtime Pay for Secret Service Agents Act of 2016. The clerk will designate the bill.
H.R. 6302, to provide an increase in premium pay for United States Secret Service agents performing protective services during 2016 and for other purposes.
I ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Without objection, so ordered. I'd now like to recognize myself for 5 minutes to explain the legislation. Yesterday, I thought we had a very productive hearing regarding the Secret Service. I am personally in awe of the men and women who have done amazing things to put their lives on the line to help protect the nation and protect some of the most important leaders within our nation. Having gone through an election where candidates are constantly on the move, sometimes hitting 5 and 6 cities in a particular day, it's an amazing logistical feat when campaigns in particular are moving from city to city and adjusting those schedules. You may be going to Wisconsin, then you decide to go to Iowa, and then it really is amazing, and it's gone on for a long period of time. And did so really without any major incidents. And you think of the literally hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, that these candidates stood before. The screening, the protection, the logistics of that was really quite amazing. But also what we heard through this is that the Secret Service has a massive problem in terms of its staffing. There are some deep-seated cultural issues that need to be addressed. Management is still getting its arms wrapped around some of the basic things they need to do. Scheduling, for instance. They testified yesterday that they're about to maybe introduce an app so somebody could actually see when they're working next week and where they might be working next week. Some of the basic things that maybe many Americans take for granted, they don't have at the Secret Service. And so what you have are people who are on the front lines working hard in a zero-fail job. They cannot ever make a mistake. As I read some of the quotes from various agents, some of these people were working 43 days in a row without a single day off. Many of these agents were working 90 to 100 hours a week. Some of these people were, as one person said, more than 8 months on the road. And yet, because of their statutory limits on their overtime, they got to a point where they were not being paid. So not only were they putting their lives on the line, not only were they dedicated enough to work an amazing amount of time, but they weren't getting paid. And that just isn't right. We have people who, as a result of current provisions in Title V that placed a cap on the amount of Secret Service pay they can earn, they came up against a max out, as they call it. And the Overtime Pay for Secret Service Agent Act of 2016, which I've introduced, helps to partially solve the max out problem for agents who dedicated themselves during this cycle and who worked during the 2016 level. It bumps up the basic pay currently given to members of the executive schedule to level 2 for the calendar year 2016. Every Secret Service agent with outstanding overtime would receive an additional compensation for 2016 under the bill. As I've been told, at least literally every single Secret Service agent worked overtime, and I want to make sure that they get paid. At the same time, the limitations to the 2016 presidential election in the bill presents a good balance that I think encourages the Secret Service to fix its staffing problems instead of relying on excessive and expensive overtime in the future. I think you'll hear that both sides of the aisle, certainly the ranking member, Mr. Cummings, and I, have deep concerns about making sure that 2016 is taken care of, but also making sure that they're taken care of in the future. The number one way that they can do that is to get to the proper levels of staffing. We heard testimony yesterday from the Inspector General, who said they were roughly 1,300 people shy of where they should be. So if they actually had the proper number of staff, 1,300 more than they have today, they wouldn't have had to have so much overtime. It is my hope that by the next presidential election, this is no longer the problem. If they get to their proper staffing levels, which by 2020 should be 8,000 to 9,000 agents, where right now they're at barely 6,500, then this will not be as much of an issue. But I am committed to work with Mr. Cummings and others on both sides of this aisle to make sure that this is not a problem moving forward. I urge my colleagues to support this legislation so that we can pay these good men and women who have put their lives on the line during the 2016 campaign. And I'll yield back the balance of my time and recognize the Ranking Member, Mr. Cummings.